Sorry, I had to pick up a call. Anyway, my story. Close to where I grew up, there's an area with where my dad actually grew up, and there's a railroad that goes through there, woods, and a place where people used to swim in the river. When my dad grew up, there was a lot of coal mining, and the river was kind of orange from the sulfur, but people always swam there. I think it's much better now. Anyway, in that area, only way back further in the woods, a man lived. Now, there were two different people I've heard mentioned. One actually is called the Hermit. The other, I don't remember his name, but they didn't refer to him as the Hermit. He had a pretty good house way back where no one ever came because he didn't like to be around people. And he was very intelligent, had a lot of books. He tells the story of one night he saw glowing eyes outside of his little cabin, I guess you could call it. And he lived way, way, way deep in the woods, so he was used to pretty much anything to do with the woods. But that he didn't understand. And then I think it was, who knows, maybe a few days, could have been a few weeks later, he was actually, from what I understand, carrying like a railroad tie back to his place. And he looked, I think he heard something, and he looked behind him, and coming up by the railroad tracks was what he said was a Bigfoot. It just kind of peeked at him. Maybe from behind a tree, or it was just walking right along the railroad tracks. Now, in the same area, just not so far back in the backwoods, a friend of my brother's, he told everyone that he felt like he was being followed. He thought it might be a Bigfoot. He said there was a terrible smell. I don't remember how he described it. Sulfury maybe. And that same friend was with my brother. They were fishing in Somerset County. And they had a little camp set up, I guess. And they heard a crash that they said was immense. Like as if a tree were coming down. So it really stunned both of them. And then they heard like a horrible, horrible scream. And I don't know if they described it as a moan and a scream. I don't want to put words in their mouth. But these were two avid outdoorsmen. And they packed up immediately and left and never went back to that spot. So there are, strange things happening. I just heard something. It wasn't real loud. Sounded like, oh yeah. Who knows? I mean, there is traffic around here. There's a state route right across the river. And I told you yesterday about the man that was my friend, and that we would drive his gator around the Wilmore Dam in Cambria County. And there had been sightings there of a white werewolf or dog man. Of course, believe what you may, but he had a story about going to that dam with his older brother. They were a few years apart, and they took their dates there. And they were just on like a little woodsy path, parked in their car down by the dam. And they saw, they say, something kind of forming like a mist from the water. And it looked like a woman. And the brother said, "Go, get out of here." So my friend started up the car and got out of there as quickly as possible. He claims that this shape was running beside the car and then disappeared. Again, no idea if it's true. If it is true, who knows what it is, but it's odd. Some people say there is a legend of a woman who lived nearby the dam and her house caught on fire and she ran and jumped into the dam, but she died. I don't know if she couldn't swim or her injuries were just too horrible. That's the legend. I think I just saw a squirrel. See if I can pick him up here. No. My sister has seen orbs. I remember one night, either I woke up in the night while this happened, or she told me in the morning. She was looking out the back window of our bedroom, and there's a little field with a stream, and far down, kind of in the right corner, she saw this orb just roaming around, and she thought that it had an intelligence about it, and she wanted to hide. She was very shaken up. I know she told me about it. Also, she and my cousin Debbie used to go to my grandmother's house a lot, where my dad grew up. And in the summers, they would just walk on the back roads. And my sister remembers this little white orb just flowing in and out of the trees and maybe the brush around them. And she said, "I wonder if Debbie remembers that." We had not spoken to Debbie in a long time because the families sometimes grow apart. But recently, for my dad's birthday, Debbie came and visited, and she said she also definitely remembers that. And it was so strange. They didn't know how to categorize it in their minds. So they just didn't think about it. But it definitely happened. I'll tell you something weird that happened to me once. If you watched my previous video right before this, how pretty. I was at my grandmother's property. Her house is not there any longer, but it was a nice little old-fashioned place where there was a coal stove on the first floor with a kitchen and a little cot. And I was sitting by her sink because it wasn't a real big room, so people were just sitting where they could. I'm thinking I was 4 or 5 because this is a really old memory, but all of a sudden I noticed that either the archway to her steps or the archway into a spare room she had there became a different doorway. And it had a revolving floor. And these two, at the time, I thought they were human robots. That's the only way I could describe it. And I was terrified. one on either side of me, holding my arms and taking me through this doorway. And then I seem to remember sitting down in a very sterile room and something being put on my head. Then the next thing I remember is my sister, a different sister, saying to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I fell asleep and had a bad dream." And she said, you weren't sleeping. You were just sitting here staring." So, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the unusual things that have happened, and maybe someone else will share that type of memory. I don't remember anything related to that happening after. So you can hear the traffic. Can't think of any other stories off the top of my head. I do know that one time I think I left my body, which a lot of people have probably done. Some try, some don't, or maybe they don't even remember it. But I was at a neighbor's house. I was about 8, and we were waiting for our neighbor's mom to make us egg salad sandwiches. We were really hungry, and it was in the evening. It was almost dark. And my mother called the neighbor's house and said I had to come home right away because it was getting dark. Well, I remember just waiting, like, no, I can't go yet. One more minute and we'll have egg salad. So, ate my egg salad, I think. Started walking home. Nothing seemed weird. I got in the house. I looked in the living room, and I felt like I was moving in the air, kind of like in a mist. It was a little bit blurry. And I went up to my sister, my mom, and possibly my little brother, and said, "Hey, here I am." And then I heard my mom on the phone saying, "Could you please tell Jeanette to get home?" I was so confused. No one saw me. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get my pajamas on and take a bath, which I didn't really do on my own usually, like, unless someone said, go take a bath at that age, you know. But it's the only thing I think of to do. So I did. I was in the bathtub, and my sister came up and knocked on the door and said, "Jeanette, are you in there?" I said, "Yes. Why didn't you tell anyone you were home?" I said, "I did. I came in and told everyone." And she said something like, "Oh, yeah, right." And then that was the end of that. But it was weird. Okay, here is another. This is not the area of the arch, but there is a little bit of a dirt area with some lines going through it. This isn't the one that I was interested in. Fingers going through do sort of make that imprint. Well, the real reason I came was to look under the arch, so that's where we're going to go. an area just across the street from me, a small street in our little village. There, for a long time, there was a trailer there that wasn't occupied. And over the last several years, a neighbor, someone had moved in there. And they came to me, this was a few months after they moved in. It was in May. And they said, "Did you hear a really big boom and vibration earlier this week?" And they told me the day. And at that time, I remembered I had been at my dad's. So I said, "No, I don't know anything about it." I said, "Have you checked to see if there was any mining going on?" Because they'll usually tell the residents, though. And you do have a very big vibration from that. And he said, "No, we checked into it. There was no mining being done." It wasn't long after that they moved out, and I don't know the reason, but the people that took that trailer over, they aren't living in it right now, but they do live in the same little town as me. As they've been fixing things up, they've had just strange things happen, like the guy's pickup truck was on one occasion found to have little rocks on the top of each tire in a little pattern in the morning. He can't think of anyone who would have done that. Let's see. I don't want to miss what I'm going for here. Oh, I think this might be the place. Is it? No. Further down. Okay. And also, they had been burning some brush in a fire ring. But they had been all done with that and put some new wood in it that they were going to burn at a later time. And the next morning, the wood was all burnt up. And they were asking neighbors if they knew anything about it. My daughter says it's fairies. I don't know enough about that. Just strange things. I guess October is a good time to talk about stories. Okay, we are getting very close to this arch. Here we are. This is the limb, I guess, yeah, that is not connected to anything. As you'll see, it comes right up out of the ground. Branches are bent over and held up by it. Here's the dirt circle I had mentioned. Now, I might have been thinking of the other circle when I noticed the scratches. Well, move some of these leaves out of the way. I'm sorry, I'm not filming this very well. Okay. Yeah, see, those are ridges. My sister told me to go ahead and just see what it looks like if you run your hand through it. It's almost the same. Bigger fingers there. If, in fact, it's fingers. I'll do it again. It's not hard to do. That ground isn't too tamped down. Here's how big my hand is. Well, I can't say that that helps me understand it, but maybe it will mean something to my sister or someone else. Now here is a larger crevice. You might not be able to see it with the shadows. But see this here, that's a crevice. That's really the main thing I wanted to check out. I'm going to go the whole way to the end of the path again because I think I missed a couple structure type things yesterday because my camera went out. If nothing else, as I have said, it's a beautiful walk. It's a pretty loud river. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but the water sounds pretty and calming. Haven't heard any deer. I think I saw one chipmunk so far. Okay, let's see what we have. I don't believe that's anything. I'll feel bad if I now can't even remember what I was looking at, which is very possible. See, that's not connected. And neither one of these is. Okay, neither of these is connected to the ground. This also is not. Now this is strange because it has grown into the other limb, as this one has. That's a loose one. Oh, well, there goes that. All right, I'm just going to film a tiny bit more. See if I am noticing any little structures that I thought were strange before. There's a little mossy rock. My grandma, she used to walk in the woods and pick like pieces of punk, like that fungus, but it's hard. And she would gather up pieces of moss and she would make like little miniature worlds on her windowsill. Oh wow, here is another spot of dirt in the ground that also seems to have those ridges. I didn't notice that yesterday. I know turkeys dig in the ground, but I heard they don't dig in just bare areas like that. And I don't think they leave that kind of mark because they hunt for things in the, like the wet, mushy kind of areas of the leaves, so they get grubs and things like that. Okay. I don't think I was going to share anything else particular today. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed the walk.